Everybody, welcome back to our Luke deep dive. Today we're digging into one of the most radical teachings of Jesus, Luke chapter 6, verses 27 to 35. These verses are part of what Luke records as Jesus' Sermon on the Plain. And if we're honest, they're not just difficult to understand, but they're even harder to live out. Jesus calls his followers to love his enemies, bless those who curse them, give without expecting return, and to show mercy that mirrors even the heart of God. To place this in context, Luke has been steadily showing us who Jesus is and what his kingdom looks like. Already in chapter 4, which we keep mentioning, Jesus declared his mission to bring good news to the poor, freedom to the oppressed, sight for the blind. And in chapters 5 and 6, he begins gathering his disciples, clashing with the religious leaders and turning expectations upside down. Right before our passage in verses 20 to 26, Jesus announces blessings for the poor, hungry, weeping, hated, and woes to the rich, full, and comfortable. That's the great reversal theme in Luke, that God lifts up the lowly and humbles the proud. And immediately after, Jesus tells his disciples how to actually live this upside-down kingdom by loving not just friends, but enemies. Listen again to verse 27. But I say to you who hear, love your enemies, do good to those who hate you, bless those who curse you, and pray for those who mistreat you. Notice that Jesus doesn't soften the command. He doesn't say, tolerate your enemies or ignore them. He says to love them, actively seek their good. That's radical. And then in verse 29, if someone strikes you on the cheek, offer the other also. This isn't about passivity. It's about refusing to return violence with violence. It's choosing the way of mercy over retaliation. And then perhaps the hardest for us to swallow, verse 30, give to everyone who asks you, and if anyone takes what is yours, do not demand it back. No conditions, no fine print. In a world built on transactions and reciprocity, Jesus commands generosity without strings attached. Now, these verses echo Jesus' later call of discipleship, of laying down your life for others. That's apparent. But perhaps we misunderstand that Jesus is not asking his followers to be passive or simply be steamrolled. See, in the ancient world, these countercultural actions of not retaliating and not demanding your stuff back would actually send a powerful message to others. For example, it was a common occurrence in Roman-occupied Judea that a Roman soldier might backhand you for not obeying him. But notice Jesus is not what he is saying, what he's not saying here. He's not saying to simply let someone slap you and take it. Instead, he says to turn the other cheek. That means that if the person were to slap you again, you're inviting it. But why? Why would Jesus do that? Well, it's not because Jesus is a glutton for punishment. Turning the other cheek, now that soldier has slapped you with the backhand, means that if they were to slap you again as you turned your cheek, they would have to slap you with the open part of their hand. And you may think, okay, well, why does that matter? Because a backhand slap was considered acceptable in that day and age for disobedience. But hitting someone with an open palm like that, especially if they were not armed and not being hostile to you, would bring shame on the attacker. That's going above and beyond what's acceptable. And in the same way, if someone borrows something from you and you don't demand it back, it would bring shame on the borrower. So these actions are not merely about just taking it on the chin, but putting the aggressor in a position where they will clearly see the wrongness of their actions and hopefully come to a place of repentance. It's a deliberate action of inviting those who wrong you to face the severity of their actions and experience shame and repentance. This teaching doesn't come out of nowhere. It's deeply rooted in the story of God. Think back, Leviticus 19, love your neighbor as yourself. Jesus extends that command beyond Israel's boundaries. Our enemies are our neighbors too. Proverbs chapter 25, verse 21, if your enemy is hungry, give him bread to eat. Jesus intensifies this by making this a defining part of discipleship. Romans 12, 20 and 21, do not be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good. Paul is simply unpacking Jesus' words here. And ultimately, this passage points us to the cross, that Jesus doesn't teach these commands, he lives them. On the cross, he prays, Father, forgive them, for they don't know what they're doing. So why is this so radical? Well, because it goes completely against our instincts, right? As Jesus says, we naturally want to love those who love us and accept those who accept us. And our natural impulse is also to protect ourselves, to seek justice on our own terms and treat others as we think that they deserve. But Jesus calls his disciples to mirror the very character of God, who is kind to the ungrateful and the wicked. This is not just about being naive or enabling abuse. Rather, it's a radical reorientation of our posture, refusing revenge, choosing love, practicing generosity. It's the kingdom ethic of grace, giving what is undeserved, because that's exactly what God has done for us. And by doing so, others might come to a place of repentance. So, what does that mean for us as disciples today? First, it challenges how we respond to personal conflict. Instead of asking, how can I win? Jesus asks us to consider, who can I love? Secondly, it reframes generosity. We're called to give, not calculating return, but trusting that God provides. That might mean giving up our time or resources or even our forgiveness without expectation of repayment. Third, it calls us to embody a radical ethic of laying down our life for others, not simply just to take abuse, but that our oppressors might experience shame and come to a point of repentance. We see this happen later on as a Roman soldier sees Jesus crucified, and he says, surely this man was the Son of God. We see this happen in the book of Acts, where the jailer who imprisoned Paul and Silas falls at their feet and says, how can I be saved? Radical discipleship, when lived out, brings others to faith. Luke 6, 27 to 35 is one of the clearest pictures of what it means to live in God's upside-down kingdom. And it's only possible because Jesus himself has loved us first. He loved his enemies, you and me, and he laid down his life so that we might be reconciled to God. So as his disciples, we're not called to just admire these words, we're called to live them, to bless when cursed, to give when asked, to love when hated, because in doing so, we reflect the radical generosity of God who loved us while we were still his enemies. Thanks for watching. If this passage challenged you as much as it challenged me, take time this week to ask, who is God calling me to love, even when it costs me? We'll see you later. Bye.